All right, we got you, Wolf and Gilly. Yeah, this first game was not as we expected it to be the outcome. So, Jayhao, you were the only one who actually got the right prediction. Can you tell us what went wrong for Big Gods in this game and what PBA did so well?
I think it was actually something that we got to talk about beforehand, in the sense that I honestly felt like sometimes when you're too aggressive, it can work against you. Big Gods is all in or nothing. I mean, they are literally all in or nothing, and I feel like they might have made a few mistakes by getting a little too deep, and so I like the restraint from PBA during these fights.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a pressure thing. You know, it felt like sometimes they got a little bit overeager. You know, I had the chance to talk to their manager before the series here, and he was telling me that, you know, they don't really get too many opportunities to play in offline tournaments, especially this big. So maybe the pressure is getting to them here, where, you know, technically there is no live audience, but it's still like, you know, there's a pretty impressive stage and set here. They realize, you know, this is where it all matters. And yeah, didn't go so well for them.
I kind of like that we saw actually PBA step it up. I mean, we talked about it a bit before. With them being in Taiwan, they should have more training opportunities than Big Gods. They showed that they stepped it up from yesterday. In terms of like the team coordination on the map, that was definitely better played. We had a couple of overextensions definitely on the side of Big Gods. The Zagara got way more value than she should have gotten. ETC, they struggled to keep him alive. And I feel if you play that Charism and Tassadar combo, you really want to get value out of the 7-sided strike, but oftentimes it was actually used not against a Sonya that went a bit too deep, but against the entire team. Yeah. Then you just scratch every hero a little bit, but you don't get too much out of it. So solid play from PBA. I'm actually really happy that it stepped it up and that we're going to get a bit of a closer series.
Yeah, and we actually prepared a replay for you guys, which pretty much sums up the way this game went, Jayhao.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to be said about this. We'll go ahead and pause it right now. So we're taking a look at the team. So on this side, on this side, we do have, this is Big Gods, and they're continuing their assault. And once again, highlight right here, that's Charism coming in. Now let's go ahead and move this forward just a little bit.
Also, one thing, we have 3 ults already on cooldown.
We do. And now, let's go ahead and pause it one more time. Look at this beautiful Mighty Gust coming out from Falstad, isolating. We do have ETC up at the top, so it isolates him. This is the aggression. They're still, again, fighting under the towers. Let's move it forward. This is where ETC starts to fall. Now, this, it could have been okay here, but now, instantly, look at the positioning. They're still very far forward. They already knew. They tried to go back in. In comes this. Now, pause one more time. Now, Caldor, what should they be doing here? They're down. They just lost ETC. They should be dropping back. There's no reason for them to fight. But let's look right in the middle here. Charism turns around. His entire team is fine, but he turns around and instantly starts taking it. Now, as soon as this happens, Falstad says, well, this looks good, and he's going to go ahead, start to do a little bit of damage. Charism so far forward, and it's just, I don't understand the aggression here, and it's obviously working against them. At this point, Charism realizes he's dead. We can go ahead and push this full forward, and he's going to dive down, and instantly you know that he's already done for. He sacrifices himself, but I feel like the overcommitment to fights that they didn't need to be in was a little bit of a downfall, and that happened on more than one occasion.
What's a big god to a god dog, Jayhao? Maybe some miscommunication here, maybe some, you know, false initiative. Maybe, you know, he thought, I'll sacrifice myself so you guys can pull back, and then, you know, they end up trying to help him because they think he wants to fight. So it's always difficult in this situation, high-pressure situations, to make the exact right call.
Right at the beginning of the replay, we actually saw that the main cooldowns were actually triggered, so you had no chance of going for the team fight. And at that point, when the replay started, we saw ETC slide in. And the question that I have is, why? Yeah. I mean, they have 5 versus 0 kills. I feel they just got really confident, guys, we have these fights. But that slide in at this point, that actually started the all overextension, because all of a sudden ETC is very much alone and he dies first. But the question is, why did he slide in the first place? Moshpit is down. All of the abilities that they have to dish out damage with the 7-sided strike with also Phoenix are already on cooldown. So you can't get any value there. If you just move back, you're completely fine. But in this case, they just lost 4 heroes for no reason whatsoever. And before that, they were actually ahead.
That was pretty much the story of the game. And not only did they lose team members, they also lost Immortals, because they were constantly looking for a fight and not really focusing on the objective. But let's talk about objectives here, because the second map is going to be Sky Temple. A little bit of a different story here. Not a very mobile objective like the Immortal, but more of a static map. You know, do you think that Big Gods, what is their recipe now to recuperate and get back into the series?
I mean, their aggression sometimes, like on smaller confined areas, it's easier to make mistakes. They fell back right underneath the towers. They came in other places. I think in bigger maps, sometimes the aggression, it allows you to get a few more picks. It allows you to be aggressive in certain areas where on Battlefield of Eternity, you don't have a whole lot of margin margin for error. If you get caught out, however, and overextend, as Kaldor pointed out, that could also be your downfall.
And the draft has started. During the first draft, we actually mentioned that some of the bans, not necessarily what we expected to be the Zeratul, was brought up there instead of potentially banning out a support. Do you think that PBA was doing things right after all, or was it just that Big Gods did not utilize their strengths?
Personally, I would still have changed a few of the heroes that they had in the arsenal. I would have maybe like given a bit of a higher priority to a hero like Lunara or even that Tassadai at the end. I think another hero that we haven't really seen, which Big Gods could have, for example, drafted, is also a Thrall.
There it is again.
The early Zeratul, it seems to be like really one of the heroes that they had bad experience against, and they just say like, hey, it's one of those heroes that we struggle against and we have to ban him out. That's kind of wasting a ban a little bit, but if it's really a recognized weakness of theirs, then I feel it's solid if they say, let's better play safe here.
It's almost like they have a strategy to just play safe, because you take Zeratul off the table. That was their downfall in the very first game we had a couple days ago. And Zeratul on larger maps like Sky Temple and Cursed Hollow gets a lot of value with Void Prisons to be able to isolate the rest of his team. But instead of picking somebody like Greymane, they went into a very safe pick, understanding that they want to solidify the front line with Muradin, who's not a bad pick. But I think it speaks to their mentality and their playstyle to just play safe. We can give up a few heroes so long as we play with what we like to play with.
And I guess MVP Black has really shown the way, you know, with opening draft with Muradin and being really good with it. All of these other teams picking it, you know, can't really blame them.
It's almost like PBA knows that the Big Gods are a very emotional team. It's almost like, you know, just come at us and we're going to make you feel desperate after a while because you just cannot knock us down with your aggressive playstyle.
It actually reminds me of the NA scene, Naventic and Cloud9. Naventic was always very aggressive. Cloud9 for the longest time just kind of let them play and they were able to counter. And eventually Naventic ended up winning out. We saw how that goes. But Cloud9 for a while was able to neutralize a lot of that aggression. I feel like this might be a similar style, maybe not on that level, but a similar style that we're seeing.
I mean, one of the problems that PBA had definitely in the last games that they played on the first day was that they were struggling with their front line. Sometimes they drafted an Anubarak as a solo frontliner, which didn't work out for them at all. Muradin's a solid option, and we've been talking on the first day about his value on Sky Temple in particular, where he can just simply go for the objective on his own. You can split him off from the rest of the team if you have the chance to do that. We see him now with aggression, very early Uther here as well. They see, of course, the pick on Rhaegar, and they say, hey, we want to have Uther here. We are afraid that he's going to be banned out, so we're going to secure him right now. Charism might have been another option for them, but there's nothing to say against an early support.
And again, that high prioritization on Greymane that you talked about earlier, Jay, how here again coming true. Over even, you know, Arthas, which, no, it was banned, but Liming. We see actually Liming not being shown that much love so far in this tournament.
I think this is Big God setting the pick up. This is ban Kalthas. They need somebody, I think, to be able to... And again, the open areas allow for Li Ming to get different angles to be able to hit the backline and get max value of some of her skill shots.
I mean, right now you ban Li Ming or you ban ETC, you have to ask yourself what you're more afraid of. I personally believe that if you take Li Ming now away from Big Gods, they are struggling with that range damage. They made the choice to go into a Kalthas in the last game and banned Li Ming themselves. Now we have a deny on the double support. Thrall, for example, is still open, could still be picked. Of course, he thrives with the double support, but he's completely fine with Rhaegar solo, and that would also give them a good solo laner.
Couldn't Tyrande be really scary, by the way, from PBA down the line when they already have like an Uther and a Muradin?
For just like the CC chain?
Yeah.
I wouldn't really like Tyrande here too much because I don't... I mean, for rotations, they are great. They would win that. But I don't really think that with the setup that they have so far, they need that kind of double support. Also, Tyrande Uther is not necessarily...
Once again, open the door for another Zagara, banning away the Tassadar. You know, Zagara also very good when it comes to dominating the bottom area of the map, securing the boss. Yeah, Thrall. You mentioned it during the game, actually, that Thrall would have made a little bit more sense than the last game.
Yeah, here as well. I mean, I just said, like, Thrall would be good for them. Thrall Rhaegar is great. The Li Ming, of course, the obvious pick after she was not banned out. They actually made a bit of a gamble ban, I would say, with banning out Kalthas because they had their hopes still up that they would be able to pick up Li Ming. Now they have two really good damage dealers that can poke. They have also a hero that can help the frontline out a little bit. I really like their setup so far. I'm curious to see what we're going to see as their last pick. For now, of course, PBA, and they go for Sylvanas here.
I love the Sylvanas pickup. I wouldn't be surprised if we might see Sonya again. You talk about Sylvanas with that Wailing Arrow. If it's able to hit Rhaegar in that backline and Greymane goes in, that could be a dead Li Ming real quick, especially if those heals aren't able to go off for that Ancestral sometimes. And that might even be an even heavier dive comp. Do you think we might see Judgment?
We could. I mean, we had quite a period in which Wailing Arrow plus Judgment was a big thing. If you go for the double frontline here, you have definitely the option right now to go full aggression. If they feel they can get the value out of it, then I believe they can do it, especially if Greymane is in range and can jump in too. All of a sudden, you would have 3 heroes that jump a target in the backline, and that can be devastating. That can give you an early snipe. So I like that they keep their options open here, and I think this is a really good, solid pick for them.
What about ETC here? Wait,
work.
they need a warrior, right?
Yeah.
Or Arthas, maybe?
I would like an ETC if he plays a little bit safer than the last game. I think it can be great, especially if you set up a mosh pit
That's
with a
what
good
they're
Sun
saying
Ring,
right
for
now on the
example.
voice com. They're like, do you promise you're going to slow down?
I mean, they have a ton of options if you think about it. Overall, we have a few interrupts against the mosh pit, so they decided to go for Johanna instead. I would have given the priority to ETC still, but with Johanna, they apparently they want to have a hero that doesn't die that fast.
A single warrior Johanna is something we haven't seen in this tournament at all. And Johanna, predominantly a hero that you want to pick on Tomb of the Spider Queen. But on Sky Temple, as a single warrior, Jayhawk, can you sort of guess what the strategy behind this is?
Safe. This is 100% a safe pick. They realized, as Kato was talking about and Todd was talking about, ETC, I think that they looked at Sylvanas, they looked at Uther on the backline and said, are we going to get as much value? So they went with a little bit safer pick. Arthas, I think, would have been a good option, but I'm not sure if that's in their hero pool. And Johanna could be like one of the safest warrior picks in the game, just because like she doesn't add a ton of value in like an extraordinary way, but she's solid. She's solid in every front.
With the game that we just saw, you know, in the ETC, not having the best of performances, I don't know if going for an ETC when there is already a Muradin and Uther is such a good idea. You know, you would just slide in and gets chains turn and die instantly. So I guess Johanna makes sense. Maybe a little bit of better wave clear as well. We've seen that being a problem sometimes, you know, when team didn't prioritize getting enough wave clear on some of these maps, and then these camps push and then the temples come up at the same time. So maybe it's a little bit better.
So Todd, why don't you give us your prediction for game number 2 between those teams?
Big gods, man. I'm going to stick with them.
You're going to stick to the beards. I like it. Calder.
I believe that they learned from the mistakes in game number 2. I have faith here, and I think the big odds are going to tie this, and we have a third game.
All right, Mr. Jayhow.
I believe the map lends to a lot of the strengths. I'm actually on the side of Big Gods this time.
I'm going to have to go with PBA here, though. I just think that they are riding the momentum. They were extremely calm in that previous game. And as you mentioned, Calder, it seems to be one of their strengths.
Yeah, they played much better than on the first day.
Calm and reserved.
Much, much better. I just think they're big gods. They learned from their over-aggression in the first game and show us a different style now.
All right, let's throw it over to Wolf Gilly, and they will take you to Sky Temple.
Thank you very much, Kendrick. It's time for some more Gilly Wolf over here on the casting desk.
Wolfie Weed?
Wolfie Weed, Gilly Wolf, whichever you prefer. We're here together. We're going to bring you guys game number 2. A very one-sided game number 1 that PBA surprised a lot of people. Seems like the desk, though, kind of leaning towards big gods again.
Yeah, leaning toward big gods, but I will say I love the composition that PBA has, because anytime I see Greymane with Uther Interior, I get super excited.
That's me. I mean, you and I often argue, sometimes even on Twitter, that we feel like one of us is the bigger Tyrael fan.
I mean, we all know it's me, but...
You're wrong, but now that we get to cast together, we could cast Tyrael and agree that, you know, this is the better comp. To break down the composition of PBA for you guys, it's Zola on Uther, Skrull on Tyrael, Muradin being played by Baphomet, Alpha Luna being played by Greymane being played by Alpha Luna, and God Dog on Sylvanas.
And in the red, we have big gods with Vieira playing Rhaegar, Muris on Li Ming, Beto playing Johanna, Falstad played by Jay Shritta, and Typhex will be playing Thrall.
All right, here we go. This is one of the things you can do with Sylvanas on this map. Big God's just going to send Jay Shritta up here to deal with them as they do push the bot, or excuse me, the mid lane on their own.
Yeah, they're going to send Baphomet to try to deal with that too, and Skrull is there too. So it looks like each team probably getting right around 1 tower. Not as much as we see sometimes where they just keep playing chicken for forever until each loses a fort.
Sylvanas has been one of the highest impact heroes on this map throughout this tournament, with players like BYY, Misaka, playing Sylvanas incredibly well, you know, using that top lane pressure. And Falstad has kind of often been the answer to this, and Calder actually pointed out several times yesterday about how you need to make sure your Falstad is in position to deal with these pushes on this map. Otherwise, you're going to lose your fort. You might even lose your keep wall if she's left alone up there for too long.
Right, that's why we saw one of the Falstad players, I can't remember quite whom, but opting to just rotate between lanes by just good old-fashioned running or flapping your wings, I guess. Making sure you leave your flight on off cooldown so that you can fly in and respond to wherever Sylvanas is going to be at.
Definitely so, and you know, the panel was talking a little bit about the potential of judgment here being taken on Tyrael versus the composition. It does lend itself well to dealing with Li Ming, potentially, but I think we are just going to see that Sanctification to keep not only Greymane alive in the front lines, but Uther himself, and you know, when you've got Murden up there, just that extra invulnerability is going to be quite effective.
Right, you and I talked about how difficult it was to keep Greymane alive in the last game without Divine Palm, and now with having Divine Shield and Sanctification, it's so many seconds where Greymane can just be in Worgen form, get that bonus attack damage to really be more effective and take people down quickly.
Well, as you guys can see, this time Jay Shrita is in position to deal with God Dog, and he might be able to secure the kill here. Just a few more autos away. One more should do it. Oh, 11 health takes 2 more. But that's how you deal with the Sylvanas split push. You have to react.
Right, and it's several seconds now where they can feel safe about not having to deal with her, but they are keeping Falstad in the lane. Scroll's in trouble. He's going to Elder and Might away, and Muri's takes a lot of damage, but Vieira is there to keep her healthy.
Yep, and you know, it ends up being pretty even in EXP. Big God's taking a slight lead here as Beto stays a really long time there and actually will secure the last shots on that temple. They may be able to invade and steal the last ones here as well. She's rotating down.
She is, but she's pretty low, so I'm not sure that how well that's or effective it'll be for them. And PBA are pretty low on health bars too, so it's everybody's getting fairly unhealthy in this fight, and that is going to be the catalyst to allow Big Gods to come in and steal the final 5 shots.
And it turns out they didn't even need her. You're absolutely right. She was too low, so she just pushed the top lane and got that pushed all the way to the fort while securing a little bit of extra EXP, pushing them closer towards level 7. Now let's see if they can do anything to get this well in the bot lane, because this is kind of what happens on Sky Temple once you get towards level 7, level 8. If you can actually do a push to kill the well in the bot lane, it makes that temple that's at the bot so much easier to take, and that's usually the temple that leads you to level 10 on perhaps what is our most snowbally map in the map pool.
Absolutely, you really don't want to get behind on this battleground or Blackheart's Bay. Those two that have the objectives that directly attack your structures. And Big Gods realize that PBA are trying to get their Giants to allow Sylvanas potentially to push along with them. But it looks like they're going to rotate up and get their bruisers maybe earlier on, be the first ones to grab them, especially since they were the ones to lose out on damage at that top fort.
Oh, looks like Baphomet trying to bait something out here. Scroll does rotate down. Nothing to be found here, however. And it's actually Sylvanas who's getting bullied in the top lane by Jay Shrita here, just simply because he has the Knights pushing with this. And don't forget, he can easily fly down at any point in time if it looks like things are going sour there. Looks like everyone's rotating towards the mid now.
Yeah, I like how Jay Shrita and the rest of Big Gods have controlled this. They didn't have Sylvanas along with the push in the bottom because someone had to be able to go up at the top and deal with the bruisers there with the early pickup by Big Gods. But PBA are timing theirs out, so they will at least have them be able to have them pushing while everyone is down at the bottom. But Baphomet may not be there. He gets low. Beto's coming in from the side, and a big kill just in time.
And look, this is right. This is that push I'm talking about. You might be able to get that well now with the bot lane. We've got these Giants here. No one's down there. I think they get this pretty easily, right? Okay, here comes the rotation. They need to respond to this because that temple is coming up very soon.
They have Alpha Luna and Scroll down here to try to deal with it. Still, God Dog is up in the top, just clearing out the minions, and they have still not picked up those bruisers, so they're really waiting it out until they're all ready to rotate down to the bottom and fight it out for that temple.
They're keeping this healing fountain alive for now. This is, you know, not like the end of the world, but I just do want to highlight how important it is the longer these fights go. Okay, down it goes. And they are controlling the temple for the time being. Falstad can fly in at any point in time. He does have that off cooldown.
Yeah, Scroll's going to go down. Sylvanas, no way to get back down here. They're just leaving her in the top to split push with the bruisers. They've lost Tyrael, but he goes in for Archangel's Wrath, pushes back Big Gods just slightly, and she will take a tower for the team.
Yeah, and I want to look at the health of everyone on Big Gods right now, because look, they can all just tap home. Look, they just did. This is the advantage of having that well in the bot lane, and that's why that early fight that they took and how they were able to destroy that is really important. And I think what PBA is doing here is absolutely correct, though. It's like, what are you going to do? You actually just kind of have to let this go. You lost your well, and you have Sylvanas, but Jay Shrita already responding.
Yeah, I love that Falstad has come up here. They know that they don't need everybody in the bottom lane because they were able to not only get a kill, but they have the level 10 advantage. So they know that nobody from PBA is going to remotely try to steal back that temple. So they get a 4 off of the bottom. They are maybe losing this top one. Jay Shrita has to use Mighty Gust to get away, but at least with the rotation up from PBA, the rest of the members, they have been able to get a fort and make sure they don't get too far behind.
And with this kind of move, the level 10 advantage for Big Gods they didn't really accomplish anything. All they did was save Falstad, and that's it. So they're basically, before this next fight happens, they're so close to 10. They will likely have it in just a moment here. There it is. And so I like this move, and that's why Sylvanas is so powerful on this map.
Zola's really trying to soak all of the damage from Li Ming, but it was only a matter of time until they take down this fort. But they're going for the fight before that happens. Beto very low, and Alpha Luna's going for it. Gets the first kill in this fight.
Sundering goes down as well. Huge Ancestral onto Typex, but he is being locked down right now. J-Shrita does not have Gust. There's the Sanctification to try to make sure they can secure these kills, and they will.
That was a beautiful Sanctification to get a second kill on Thrall. They save the fort somehow. Look how low it is.
Incredible plays. And this is basically just like the first game, kind of PBA going against the grain, having cards stacked against them and making all the right moves. Vieira is going to get picked off here as well. A nice invade there. But the fact that they were able to force Falstad to use his Gust and force him to Hearth home allowed them to rotate back down that top lane, was still pushed, and they got a nice team fight off of it. They kept themselves, you know, they kept the advantage, or they were down in ESP, but they were able to just hold on to force that pressure on the top lane to get 10, to force a fight. Without 10, that would have never been possible.
Right, this is the reason why Dread and I were talking about how even though PBA did not look good versus My Insanity, they were looking really good in their regionals, and it's because they can be aggressive like some of these other teams we see, but they don't have to be, and they know what decisions to make very quickly so that they can even out experience or to widen any leads that they get.
Absolutely. This game is very even right now. It's like both teams are taking a different approach to how they're going to get EXP, how they're going to take objectives, and it's kind of coming together. And I feel like it's a big clash between Sylvanas and Falstad, how they're responding, how they're pressuring the lanes. Speaking of Falstad, he is going to, like you said, avoid using his fly and actually just rotate down. He does have his Gust available, so he could be the one to set up and initiate here.
They're clearing out. Temples will be spawning in just a few seconds. It's going to be mid and bottom, and of course, the boss is still available too, but that's always going to be a scary point for both teams, especially because there's Sanctification and later on Holy Ground for PBA, but Big Gods have the Mighty Gust and Sundering, and those are never heroics you want to go up against when you're trying to contend with the boss.
Yeah, you kind of need to force a fight to avoid those. Sanctification and Divine Shield, of course, going to be your emergency panic buttons versus that. But you never want to get caught. You always want to make sure you're watching where both Falstad and Thrall are so you don't get flanked. And the Shrine being controlled here so far by PBA, but it looks like Big Gods, instead of trading, is going to go for the invade here. Beto up in the front.
PBA have to know that Falstad's coming up as they saw somebody leave the bottom temple. Wave of Force pushing some of PBA away from this, but as you see, Alpha Luna is actually stealing the bruisers in the top while PBA were distracting.
Yeah, so basically that was a 4v5 fight that PBA got a better trade on, and they absorbed the Blessed Shield. Baphomet is going in here, so is Skrull. That was a great Gust by J-Shrita.
Go for the throat, kind of backfires for Alpha Luna as the Ancestral Healing did connect in time to keep J-Shrita alive, but now Muri's is very, very low. Sanctification keeps Tyrael alive and fighting in there as they continue to aggress.
Oh, God Dog wants to kill Muri's, and he will get it, and that is already, you know, their only kill here. Skrull taking a lot of damage, maybe an overextend. Let's see if he can get another kill with his trait. It doesn't look like it, you know, damaging Vieira a little bit more there, but not able to secure that kill. I think what you mentioned about the go for the throat backfiring there is really what turned the fight for Big Gods.
Yeah, they were able to make Ancestral Healing connect, and he went so deep in that, trying to find the kill and then not getting it, that he just had to leave and took a lot of damage in the process. Had to use Divine Shielding too, which meant, and Sanctification only really kept Tyrael alive. They didn't all fully run through it, it seemed, to try to get into the fight more.
Yeah, the Gust was also pretty good.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it kind of had some anti-synergy with the simultaneous Sundering, it was still a pretty good Gust that made sure that nothing bad was going to happen in that moment and kind of forced Sanctification to be used later in a less opportune time.
Well, with that win on the in that fight, Big Gods have a level lead now, and they're well on their way to getting their 16 talents. So we'll see if they're able to get to that point and maybe start for another fight. But until then, both teams just trying to make sure they're in the lanes, continuing to soak experience, especially important for PBA, and a lot also getting their mercenary camps so they don't get stolen away from by Big Gods.
Right, Big Gods just so close to 16 here. That's going to be something to look out for. You know, obviously Thrall gets a huge damage spike at 16, so that's, I think, really the scariest thing that's going to happen once that is hit.
I thought maybe we were going to see Falling Sword from Beto, because I've seen him pick it before, but he just wants to be super tanky. Of course, going for the more standard Blessed Shield and following it up with Hold Your Ground so that he makes sure he has more shielding from Iron Skin and that it can be up more often. He just wants to tank as many abilities and as much damage as he can so that the rest of his team can feel more free to be aggressive.
All right, we might see a totem go down here with this Sundering. They really want to kill Skrull. He's just going to sank himself, and It's Heroics traded for Heroics here, but Big Gods is not done yet. They're on the pursuit. Nice Dwarf toss away. Baphomet just barely escaping that route there. And PBA is just, again, just like they did earlier on this game when they were down Heroics, they're going to kind of back off Turtle until they can be on the same talent tier.
Yeah, I think they're okay with using Sanctification since Sundering came out, since it's got a lower cooldown. And of course, Blessed Shield was used too, but that's such a low cooldown that, again, it should be back up for the next engagement.
Ooh,
there is
this
16.
is greedy.
They're trying to, I think they're trying to maybe force the fight, especially since they know that it's seen. That or they're just trying to sneak it.
It's so close, they still don't have 16, but I think they're just going to try to fight it anyways. Here we go. Silence goes down. The Gust, not the best here.
It was not. There's plenty of people from PBA on this point, and Viero gets hit by a Hammer of Justice, but they're finally starting to put the damage down on the members of PBA in there. Unfortunately for them, PBA is going to lose Johanna, and they're continuing this fight, taking out Thrall and Li Ming.
Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be the J-Hal replay, man. Just looking at this, it's like, they fought without 16, and they were winning the fight because it was such a greedy boss by Big Odds. They were winning the fight before Alvaluma even showed up. And so he comes in, the Gust didn't do much there, and that was greedy, and they're going to lose a keep for it, I'd say. Look, they even have the bot control. They're going to go ahead and take that temple as they push. And this is not just any push at level 16. This is a Sylvanas push.
It is. They have Sylvanas. They still have people down. They do decide to put Tyrael on the tempo, even though they have the boss and have people down for a little while. But the fact that PBA were able to stop that without Sanctification, too. Not only the fact that Alpha Luna wasn't there at the start of it.
These team fights are really inspiring, basically, what we're seeing from them. Oh, Jay Shrita doing a risky move here. Tries to go in for the fly. If he had been storm bolted there, that would have been the end of him. Such a greedy, risky move, and I feel like they're starting to get maybe even a little bit tilted here from what just occurred in that last boss fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you are a team who wants to be aggressive and wants to fight, you finally get a fight, and you're like, okay, here we go. This is our point. It's the boss fight. We're 16. They are not. How did we lose that? I think that would tilt anybody.
It was like you said, it was obviously intentional. They wanted to force the fight before 16, and they still lost it, and they basically lost a 5v4. I'm really impressed with PBA's play here in both games so far. This game isn't over yet, but the boss lane being unlocked in the late game is always a terrifying thing because it's basically another win condition for PBA, who's already closer to level 20.
Of course, and it also means catapults in that lane, so if they get into long drawn-out fights with PBA at any point, especially once the next tempo phase starts, then that's just time where catapults are pushing in, and if they lose that fight, it's a direct access to the core.
All right, looks like Big God's going to rotate in here. Baphomet in position to block this, and yet again does get that Dwarf toss away. Blessed Shield goes down and a Sundering, but is this worth it? I don't think so. 2 Heroics waste, and Baphomet's just going to take it.
Yeah, he has the Avatar going, so he's still staying healthy, and Sanctification will go down, as does Ancestral Healing, and Typhex just gets eliminated.
And Jay Shrita taking too much damage here. Will be able to barrel well away. God Dog on the chase, not going to commit, going to just rotate back to secure the kill onto Beto. Skrull. Maybe a bit of overextension here, but a lot of cooldowns being blown onto him. And look, there's Divine Shield. There's the stun as well. And Jay Shrita, you might go down here.
Jay Shrita is being chased down by Baphomet. The rest of the team brings down Vieira on Rhaegar. And 2 members of Big Gods will stay alive. Do PBA feel like this is the time? It looks like maybe they just want to try to take out another keep so they can maybe even go for a safe win.
I'd say just take the keep. Grab the Giants to give that extra pressure, then just take these Shrines. They might even go send 1 to the Shrine while they steal the Giants, but they're going to get this keep easily. The problem is they're not at full health, and they're very low on mana, so I think trying to core here is just out of the question. They're about to have 20, and because of that, they're just going to say, you know what, let's just go grab some more EXP. Let's grab 20 here. They are going to steal the Giants, as I mentioned, but you know, a few members hearthing home to get set up for these temples, which may simply end the game.
2 members left alive there for Big Gods too, and with Li Ming being one of them, if one of them died, it was just going to give so much potential to take out more of them with those low health bars. So it makes sense to just play safe. They know that they have all of the control in this game, especially since they're about to get level 20 and just in time for a temple phase.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to take these this Bruiser camp as well. Not, you know, going to be the most impactful Bruiser of all time, but they are going to be in position to take a fight here. Only 3 here, and there's the isolation on the Blessed Shield. Sanctha wastes the Sundering.
That Sundering doesn't do very much. Holy Ground 2 was just perfect. Look, Beto cannot get back to the team, has to use Iron Skin, and just gets melted thanks to the cold embrace of vulnerability that Sylvanas has been putting out.
And they got to be careful. This push at the bot lane is already on the core, and Muradin now has Rewind. I think if he had been like just a second faster, they would have been able to grab a second Stormbolt to maybe get a second kill here. But look, it's 5v3. Storm talents are up, and we even have Bulwark on Uther, and he has that longer Divine Shield with this, so they might actually just be able to commit to the core.
Yeah, that's what we've been seeing whenever you see the Tyrael Uther combination with somebody trying to keep them alive for as long as possible, is give them those 2 extra seconds. And also it makes Divine Shield up more often as it reduces its cooldown. But one talent I thought was really cool is Alpha Killer instead of Relentless Predator for Greymane. With that, because it does bonus damage equal to 3% of the hero's maximum health and the vulnerability that Sylvanas puts out, that's why we're seeing Johanna just get wrecked in fights.
Exactly, and before Indestructible, it's just really hard to keep her alive. And, with the ability to reset the Go for the Throat, that's just kind of this combo that Greymane gets. It's this huge power spike he has at 16. And they're not really looking for the poke. They're not going to go Executioner here. This could be Big Gods' way to turn this around. They need to win a fight. If they lose this, they lose the game.
These Holy Grounds have been so perfect, but the rest of the team wasn't quite in position to capitalize on it yet. So Viera gets back to his team, has to use Ancestral Healing on Jay Shrita, and members of PBA are getting low, but they have the Sanctification, they have 20, and another Holy Ground, 3 people down, and this should be it.
Oh, and this is so unfortunate for Big Gods, but this will end the game here. PBA is going to take the 2-0 and eliminate Big Gods from the tournament.
That means PBA does get another shot at making it out of this group stage. They'll go up against the loser of My Insanity and Gale Force Esports.
And I gotta say, this is not a huge upset, but I do feel most people look at this as an upset. And they performed very, very well despite Big Gods' performance 2 days ago versus Gale Force. They just couldn't carry that momentum. And it's unfortunate for Big Gods to be eliminated both times in group stage in spring season, now making it back here in the summer season of HGC, still eliminated in the group stage. Like they said in the interviews, they want to represent Latin America on that big stage, get out of groups, but it won't be for them this season.
I'm just so amazed by PBA to lose to My Insanity so hard in their first batch, come back here with a fresh mindset and be able to do so well here. Of course, this is 3 members of the team that represented Taiwan before GIA, but they've been able to pull in new members, and they're just looking fantastic, especially in this match.
Yeah, not every team sees success with reformation, but you can see that basically what we're seeing from PBA is kind of a reformed GIA. And it even has 3 letters. It's like just a totally new formed team. And they looked really good. They looked much improved over the match versus My Insanity. And I do feel like they improved their drafting specifically a lot. I think they probably sat down over the day and a half they had to get ready for this and looked at the drafts of Big Gods, decided how they wanted to counter some of them, and just worked on that aspect of their play because their mechanics on fire there.
Yeah, it really worked out for them in all fronts, and I can't wait to hear what the analysts have to say about that last game, so let's kick it over to them.
Thank you very much, Wolfweed. And yeah, this was... I just missed it the first time, so I just had to do it this time, guys. I'm very sorry. I apologize. No, but back to the series. The most predominant factor here that we could see was probably the aggression, sometimes or mostly the unnecessary aggression from the Big Gods. Color, you were very vocal about it.
Yeah, especially, there was a lot of stuff that went wrong in the series, but especially one thing was a bit indicative. At the end of the game, the keeps are down, there's a temple up with half shots, and they are, I think it was 30% away from level 20, and they rush to the top and take a fight, and I do not understand why. Their core would not have died, the temple would not have been able to kill it, but this is just very characteristic for the entire series. They take fight, so they don't have to take for some reason, and that has been a constant theme. So, and actually, PBA did a very good job at exploiting these things. PBA actually played very well in this map, and what I particularly liked about their play was their control of Mercams. Even stealing away the nightcap of the opponent in the middle of a temple fight. It was a bit of a risky play, but that was beautiful.
Also, you have to commend their ability to fight as 4 people without losing 1 team member earlier. I mean, they did that multiple times at the boss during the mercenary camp scene there. So really... really good performance by PBA. We have to highlight that. And Jeho, you have to highlight something else here. Go for replay number 1.
Yeah, it's going to speak to a lot of what we talked about before and a lot of what Caldor just talked about, the aggressive play. Now, this is the scenario where Johanna is way far forward. Let's just pause it and take a look at exactly what's going on. So Johanna basically came down from the top. The rest of the team completely down here at the bottom, and you're going to see just out of position, chasing, trying to zone out. Johanna's going to try and peel off to the right, but it's too little, too late. The rest of the team, but it doesn't stop here. As you see, Johanna is going to die, but the rest of the team, now look who's making their way up. The reinforcements are here. The stuns come in, and this is just pretty much all she wrote. The cleanse is there, the ancestral lands, but all the heroics are going to keep it up. But look at that beautiful Tyrael dive with the body block. Typhix stuck in there in a very tough spot. But let's pause right now. Right now, things are looking actually okay. Things right here are okay. And then in comes one of the most beautiful sinks you will see. Let's run it forward, just kind of in slow-mo real quick. Almost dead. In comes the sink with just 200 health, and you can see the body blocks, the stuns, everything was there. And then coming in to seal the deal is Greymane. It just helps seal the deal and to punish the aggression coming out from Big Gods.
It just felt like Big Gods realized like they weren't doing well, and with each and every single big fight coming close to happening, they lost patience more and more every time, and then took the fights poorly and more poorly every single time as well. That attempt at the boss also, like, what was
we
that
might,
exactly
we might
about?
have that for you.
But what we could see here is really just they judge these. They have a lot of misjudgment happening. They were trying to snipe the fort in the middle, and the question is once again, why? You are a level ahead, you are in a very good spot, you had to put Falstad up to the top again because Sylvanas and the camp gave you a bit of trouble, so you de-pushed that. But you are absolutely golden. You got the bottom temple, everything's fine, you are a level ahead, you're looking really solid, the fort in the mid lane is going to die anyways, but they went very, very deep for it, and that's exactly the problem that we saw in the replay. Johanna was trying to shield a bit against the rest of the team, but with everybody else already moving so far forward, they find themselves in full retreat, they lose their tank, and they don't have to make these plays. They are just in these situations too greedy, and PBA is looking at it and is like, well, thank you very much. We're going to punish you right here. And the Sank was, of course, great. I mean, that's exactly what PBA needed to do.
And this is actually a very good time for you guys out there to actually learn something and to sort of, you know, make yourself less aggressive when you play Heroes of the Storm at home. And I think J-Ho can show us another scene where we're going to see a little bit of that over-aggressiveness.
A little bit of over-aggressiveness, but also a little bit of a misplay. Let's go ahead and pause it real quick. I mean, this right here is something we have to highlight. Right here is going to be your Falstad player. Right here is your Li Ming. Now, keep in mind, this is basically their side of the map, and we have the blue team starting to rotate in. They're coming to defend. The boss at about 25% health. Let's go ahead and start to rotate this a little bit forward. Now, here comes the thing. You're going to see Murden hop on point here in just a second the minute this boss goes. Wailing Arrow already used. Now, let's pause it right now. As you see this right now, here's Falstad, still there. You have to think that that boss at 25%, you should start rotating up to this area so that you can get the Mighty Gust and push them off point. But what you're going to see, already the Sank is out. Mighty Gust is there, and it moves nobody. It moves nobody, and that's the biggest play. Now Falstad's rotating up a little bit too late, so a misplay once again. Sank was already out. You have a bad positioning on the Falstad. He should have been rotating up from the get-go, and this is just another part to where the aggression worked against them.
I think even before any kind of engagement happened here, I think Sundering and Blessed Shield were down as well, which definitely didn't help with missing some of these heroics.
The big play for me here was actually Uther, because you could see when Mighty Gust is about to happen, Uther was watching Falstad very closely, and the moment that Falstad starts to use his Mighty Gust, he pops Divine Shield immediately. So there was absolutely no way to blow anybody out of that temple. He has the cleanse ready that he uses on a different target. I think he actually Divine Shielded Tyrael, if I remember correctly.
Was it the Divine Shield or the Sank?
It was definitely, no, the Sank were already out, but he used Divine Shield just at the moment. So again, why the play? Yes, you are 16, but your opponent is so close to that same talent. You have a lot of ults down. It's risky, and I guess if you are feeling you have to make that play, if you're maybe ahead in the series, you want to risk something, you can make it happen. But
maybe
the positioning, though, you have to be aware of your position. The fact that he didn't rotate up to prepare to begin with was a mistake.
But even that, like, even if you are in the position, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You have Uther there's the cleanse, there's the Divine Shield.
Maybe they just didn't keep in mind the composition they were playing against.
You have to do that. I mean, at this point, like,
on this stage of competitive play, you just have to be aware of that. But let's actually drop another one here, J-How, and take a look at the third and final replay.
Yeah, I really, as much as we've highlighted some misplays from Big Gods, we do need to make sure and highlight Police Buff Arthas. Now, again, this is the aggression coming in. As you can see, the Blessed Shield was used. Now, this is a little bit longer because this fight drew out 2 heroics used on 1 target. And do you actually want to use your heroics onto Murden? That's a really tough spot to be in. And you can see so far forward, they're all here. And now we're going to see the rotation down. Now, keep in mind, now pause it real quick. Who is missing from this fight? Sylvanas. All right, this is where things really change. We have the Sank here, and everything's starting to look. Now, it's in a rough spot, but the minute we're going to see this is we roll it forward, down comes Sylvanas, and you're going to see, here comes the support. Here is exactly what's needed. Boom. Outlands the Wailing Arrow, and you can see turning around, and once again, Big Gods on their back feet. They played this, PBA did, in the right manner to be able to withstand all of what was going on. I mean, they just put the pressure onto Big Gods. Every time they came in, PBA knew exactly what to do. You can see down at the bottom, they're continuing to put the pressure on. Time after time again, PBA was able to make the plays and turn the aggression against them. I mean, just beautiful play by PBA to wait all of this out to continue to win fight after fight.
This was the absolute dream of a fight for them too. Like everything's used on Muradin, who doesn't die. Like obviously they're gonna turn around and win the fight, right?
Yeah, so we now have one of the winners, of course, here on the desk. It is my honor to introduce you, or to introduce you guys to Baphomet from PBA. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on the victory over the Big Gods. Now, my first question to you, Baphomet, is, of course, were you aware of the fact that the Big Gods play so aggressively, and how did you prepare yourselves against that?
首先恭喜你赢了这一场，然后你有没有知道这个你的对手很喜欢玩侵略性还有快速的这种玩法？那你有没有特别研究他们？
因为我们在重组之前的队友，他在上次的春季赛有遇过这个队伍，那也比较熟悉他们的打法。所以我们是知道他们会这样打的。
We have faced the Big Gods before in the previous Spring Championship, and that's probably why we understand their playstyle better.
Okay, thank you very much. And another question is, during the drafts, we've seen that you banned Zeratul twice. Why did you do that? Is it just a hero you don't like to play against?
发现班选的时候2场都搬了 Zeratul 这个英雄，那有什么特别原因吗？只是不喜欢打这个英雄吗？
因为我们有研究过他们之前的 VOD， 他们比较喜欢用泽拉图搭配 ETC 这样的打法。那我们在第2场，因为我猜他们会在我们2 ban 之前就拿走泽拉图，所以我决定第一个 ban 就把它 ban 掉。那我们因为是先选，所以也可以抢走伊利丹，所以对我们来说这个 ban 是比较好的。
So for the first game, it's because we studied Big Gods and we know they like to play Zeratul with ETC, so we decided to ban it first. And for the game 2, I also banned it first because I know we have first pick, so we would take Illidan. And then I know that they will want to take Zeratul before I had time to ban it second, so I decided to ban it first.
All right, Todd, anything you want to add here?
It almost felt like it was a different team playing today than it was 2 days ago when they played their first match. Did they make any particular adjustment going to today, or what do they attribute their 2 days success and last time's failure to?
感觉上你们这个队伍今天表现得比较好，比起前天来说，那你们有没有做了什么的改变吗？
因为可能会紧张吧。今天如果再输的话，就确定要被淘汰，所以我们会可能准备比较充分，还有可能今天发挥的比较好一些，对面失误比较多，所以我们打的会比较顺利一点。
I think because today our team is on the line here to be eliminated if we lose, so that's why the pressure is high, and we would do more homework and study our opponents much more before we enter the tournament, today's matches. And I think also partially the opponent team made some mistakes, and we were able to capitalize on that and win the match.
All right, awesome. And now just drop some words for your fans out there, and of course for the Heroes of the Storm community, and yeah, just a little bit of a shout out.
你有什么想对粉丝们说的吗？
感谢大家的支持。那其实我在欧服训练的时候，也有很多天气上的朋友也会给我加油，所以真的很谢谢你们，谢谢。
Thank you so much for the fans that have been supporting me, and I have been playing some pubs in the EU region, and those who added me and say, good luck for a tournament, thank you so much for your kind words of support.
All right, cool. So good luck on your future path here in the Summer Championship. You're going to play either My Insanity again or Gale Force Esports, so good luck on that future path for sure. For now, guys, we're going to take a look at the updated bracket here from Group B in the first group stage. Of course, something has changed, and of course, unfortunately, Big Gods from South America, they are out of the tournament. They will have to try again in the fall season for the next championships, of course. But My Insanity versus Gale Force Esports, that is the big bang that we are going to bring to you guys live home in front of your computers. And I'm sure that, you know, NA and EU, those two regions are just boiling with excitement, and we couldn't be any more happy.
You know, you talk about regions. I think there's actually one person sitting here that actually might be more excited.
Unfortunately, I'm not on a desk for this one, but as I said before, I told you during the break, I'm happy that Dr. Dreadnought is with us because Gale Force Esports are going to need a doctor after My Insanity is done with them.
Dr. Dread! Someone call Dr. Dread!
Okay, just for the record, I walked up. He was practicing that in the gym last night.
Now, like, we're having here a lot of fun. Of course, the two teams that are supposed to advance out of this group are going to play up next. But for us, it's of course like great to have a little bit of NA versus EU banter.
A little bit of banter.
I mean, it's been going forth the entire week already, so it's
initiated by you.
That is so not true. Like, hey, I was very quiet when we started the show today. My man right here, he started things off, so I'm very grateful for that.
It's always been the case. Like, there's always been this rivalry, right, between Europe and North America. So it's
even
always
Warcraft 3, man. Like,
yeah, every game, every esport.
Yeah.
So it's always cool to see the two regions.
It's just basically all about like who can get smashed by Asians sooner or later, right? So
exactly. I mean, the last time when we were at the Spring Championship, we realized we are both exactly on the same level, aka we both suck and we get our asses kicked by the Korean and the Chinese teams. This time, we might finally have a winner, at least for the next 3 months.
All right, so this is now the golden opportunity for you guys to get active, move on Twitter, and use the hashtag HGC to let us know who's going to prevail in this first clash between EU and NA. Is it going to be My Insanity or is it going to be Gale Force Esports? We will be back after a short commercial break, so don't go anywhere.